Right. This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN. Gareth has found himself in space this afternoon. What's going on here, Gareth?
Well, in reality, let me get back to this. Um,
Love how the glasses were just blocking it was just space in your eyes.
yeah, am I normal again?
You are normal again.
Right, yeah, sorry, I was trying to find a blurred background like yours, but my ineptitude on the technicalities of Zoom from here in Paris, when I'm at the Paralympics, precluded me from doing it. But you liked when the space one came up. There you go. You got your what do you call it? Your ident or whatever
Oh,
for the.
yeah. How are you, mate? We'll go into the Paralympics, but obviously, I suppose away from that, being in Paris, has it been a bit refreshing?
Oh, well, the food and the wine and all of those things are obviously beautiful. It's the city of light, the city of love. It's wherever you look, there is culture and color and creed and amazing history. Obviously, Place de la Concorde, Champs Elysees, Notre Dame, Sacre Coeur, Montmartre, Pigalle. Even you don't even know what those things are, do you, Charlie?
Oh, what?
Um, well, it's all scenes from different parts of history. I've been out to the Palace of Versailles with the equestrian. It's a very historic city, and of course, and I love this about the French, that there's still the DNA of whiff of a revolution at any point, and they've got it in them. And it's been an amazing. How long have I been here now? 10 days I've been here. I'm back in 3 or 4 days just to get home with the British Paralympic team on the Eurostar. They've got two charters going next Tuesday, September the 9th. They've got a bag full of medals, 33 golds already, just behind China, who've got as many disabled people as the whole of Britain, by the way, as the whole of the UK. They've got 65 million registered disabled people in China, People's
Really?
Republic. Well, they've got whatever it is, 2 point something billion people, or 1.2 billion people, and yeah, they've got as many disabled registered citizens as we have people in the UK. So we'll never beat them. I think they're up to 52 gold medals, which is good because prior to Beijing in 2008, without boring you, at my eighth Paralympic Games, going back to way before you were born in 1996, um, they really did change the country for disabled people, and that's what the Paralympics is as well. It's sport, but it's a movement to change disability in the world, to create accessibility, to create policy for people with discapacities, really. And I've been a supporter of it for a long time as a journalist, and it's a pleasure to be here. And Paris is an amazing city. A lot of schlepping around, a lot of reporter trudging around. Sarah Story out on the eastern part. Last day before yesterday, I was out in the equivalent of, say, as far as, let's say, where was I? I'd have been out somewhere like Windsor Castle for the equestrian, and then yesterday I was out as far as, say, Brentwood for the road racing, where Sarah Story won her 18th gold medal.
Wow.
Um, in track cycling. Yeah, she's been at 9 games. She's a Dame Sarah Story. Where there's a long history to it. So and it's great to be here, and it's a lot of hard work. Very different to our set pieces around a big fight week, where we'll be in 2 weeks' time at Wembley, where we will go to the same venues pretty much every day, and we'll have the workouts and we'll have the press conference. Here you're going all over the city. This afternoon I'm going to see the brilliant men's wheelchair basketball team in the final against Germany. They've hammered everyone so far, and in the group stages, led by Captain Pratt and flag bearer Terry Bywater, who's at his 7th games. They're all fighting. They're like boxers. The wheelchair basketball team. They go over. They throw themselves back up again. You shake their hands. They've all got proper arms on them. Like, I'm talking arms. They're built, massive shoulders. And it's an extraordinarily exciting sport. And I'm hoping the boys are going to win the gold medal here. They've been in the semi-final for the last 6 games. So they got Germany today. They beat them in the group stage. They got beat them today to get in the final. I'll be going over to the Arena Bercy in about after I finish with you. Bit of lunch, maybe a margarita, and then into the event.
Gareth, what's been the, I suppose, the most maybe emotional moment that you've witnessed so far?
I have tears about 3 or 4 times a day. I'm not going to hide it. The opening ceremony in the Champs Elysees and the Place de la Concorde, with them all, trooping down and into the Place de la Concorde, was extraordinary. The blind pianist singing, the one-legged dancer with his crutch. But I've just watched people all the time. Greg Stevenson, gold in the para rowing. Went to interview him at GB House, which is up in Clichy. They bring all the medalists there to GB House, where they have an embassy for the athletes. I was trying to hold back emotion interviewing him. He had both legs blown off by an IED when he was in the parachute regiment in Afghanistan, and he's just such a cool character, such a great man. There on his 2 prosthetic limbs, and I was just asking him about, how his life changed, and he was saying to Camp Bastion he was operated on in 40 minutes. Jacco Van Gas, Stevenson was in 5-9 Squadron Commando, Royal Engineers, and Jacco Van Gas, who's a cyclist with 1 leg and a bit of an arm damaged, he was in the parachute regiment. He's a cyclist. He's won two golds here. It's emotional speaking to them. Ellie Chalice, born with meningitis or had meningitis, 4 limbs are amputated. Brilliant swimmer, great advocate. She's from Clacton-on-Sea, Colchester Swimming Club. There's just so many of them. Beth Twomey this morning, who's just finished in the bronze medal position at the age of 14 in the para table tennis, cerebral palsy, discovered by the free school meals in the holidays sports projects. My daughter works on one of those in central London, but she was discovered in Brighton. She wouldn't be here at the games. That was like 3 years ago. I mean, you can tell just so many amazing stories, There's some funny stories like Mirzad, the sitting volleyball player, the 8'1", 8'1" tall Iranian sitting basketball player. I could go on. We just talk about this rather than boxing today. 8'1". The storyline is they couldn't build a bed big enough for him in the village, so he sleeps on the floor. 8'1", second tallest man ever, I think he is.
Bloody hell! You got to get a photo next to him, Gareth.
Yeah. I know. But I'm so busy with other prods here that, I mean, it's just amazing. It's 4,000 very unique, very different people from humanity playing sports, and it's part of a movement about making the world more aware of disability. And we get into all the journalism alongside. There was a guy cheating in para canoeing because he had his phone on with his team, telling him where the others were in the blind rowing, where they were behind him to keep going. He was disqualified because he had his phone on, an Italian rower. We've had a transgender runner. That was a big scandal. A male to female transgender runner in the women's races. A bit like Iman Khalif in the Olympics. Yeah. That caused a big stir. Yes, I could go on and on. I'm full of it.
Well, let's get into the boxing stuff. We are, like you say, 2 weeks away from Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Have you managed to catch up on the face-off between the pair of them?
I haven't watched that. I know the bits of it. I know that Joshua handled it really well, and I know that Dubois was on the wind-up. But I think my inclination is that Anthony Joshua's handled these big stadium occasions several times now, particularly against Klitschko. Yeah, it was 7 years ago, but just over 7 years ago. But he's very well versed in these big stadium occasions. I think he believes in himself. I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on Daniel Dubois in fight week. I know he's fought Usyk in a big stadium. I know that there's going to be a lot more asked of him this time, in fight week, and he's got to try and put that to one side. He's not the most talkative. He doesn't open up very much, but he is going to be put under a lot of pressure from the awaiting media in that week to talk more about where he is. He is the champion. He's the ad hoc champion of the IBF title. He hasn't won the IBF title. Let's be plain about this. Just like there'll be a debate about three-time world champion Anthony Joshua, which he will be, but it's a weird algorithm of boxing. And I don't want to get into that because it just is what it is. But I think Joshua. I see Joshua with a very strong mindset going into this. And they're going to have to hold their mindsets, both of them, because it's going to be a battle of a jab, then the right hand in there. And it could be a very dramatic end for either man in this fight.
What does Daniel Dubois have to do that AJ1 hasn't seen before, but also to sort of, is it go out and get AJ's respect early on?
I think he's already got his respect. I think they both got each other's respect. I think they both know they're dangerous. It's all going to be in the actuation of the fight. It's all going to be about those little margins, those inches between them. Who controls the space? Like I say, I really do think it'll be a battle of the jab early on, and the key is going to be who starts fastest. There's all the things said about Daniel Dubois is easy to hit, but also if Joshua's hit hard, he may struggle against Dubois. I still think it's a 75-25 fight on paper towards Joshua. I think he's a big favourite. He's more experienced, but Dubois has that power in his right hand, and he has shown that he can come through a world of trouble. I don't know if he could do that against Joshua if Joshua put a lot of pressure on him. But Joshua doesn't tend to go for someone unless he's got them hurt. So I see this going.
Calculate now, right?
Exactly. 5, 6, 7 rounds.
Let me talk to you. I suppose this is more of a novelty fun one, as we see Gareth's Paralympic water bottle. We're seeing that Liam Gallagher will perform. We know that there's been so much talk about the Oasis reunion. If anyone, and this is what some of my friends have been saying to me from home, they're texting me saying, look, are we going to see Oasis at Joshua Dubois? I said, look, very unlikely, but if there was anyone that was going to be able to try and bring them together, it probably would be His Excellency, right?
I think it's likely rather than unlikely.
Really?
Because the who have we got? We've got Liam. Yeah, Noel is a huge boxing fan. I've interviewed him several times. You interviewed Noel?
No, I haven't, but I've seen him at many a boxing show.
Yeah,
and
I've probably interviewed him 5 or 6 times for Talk Sport ringside. He's a terrific fella. I think he'll be there at the event, and I think he'll make. I think what he'll do. I think he'll make an appearance on stage with Liam. They'll do a tease of a tiny little gig, a tiny little number, and then he'll come back to his seat.
That's a great way to sell some more pay-per-views as well, right?
And also, like you said, His Excellency TURKI ALALSHIKH, I think, has assisted in getting them back together, because this stuff about them getting back together as brothers and of getting rid of their internecine sibling rivalry, I think has come about because of this event. I don't know whether I'm right, but I think it has, and I'm pretty sure that that if anyone, like you say, if His Excellency goes to them and says, "Look, just do a skit. There's a few million." He's got the money to be able to pay them. It's so we shall see, but it's still a great thing. It's a great subplot to the whole thing, and of an event that's very nuanced in subplots.
Yeah, I suppose it also keeps that ticking comment of like relevance as well, right? I mean, look, you're always going to have that with Joshua and Dubois fighting each other for the world title. We've got Liam Gallagher, okay, sprinkling a bit of Oasis news, and you've got even more people talking. Like I say, I've got my friends who aren't massive boxing fans as such, casuals who put on the big time shows, and they're even posing me the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, look. For me, it's this is an enormous event. This is the Saudi Arabians flexing their muscles to show British fans what they can do in the biggest stadium of all. Look what they've done, going for 96,000 seats, going for that extension, all of that kind of thing. So, and also His Excellency Turkey Al-Sheikh reaching out more. I know he spoke to you a couple of weeks ago. He's on Talk Sport this week. So he, the guys are one man machine when it comes to boxing. I know he's got a team, but he's really making a big difference.
Simon Jordan posed a question to Eddie Hearn the other day. And actually, from Eddie's response, in fact, I do very much get where they're coming from. He also said that now fighters were sort of working not exclusively with His Excellency, but where Turkey Al-Sheikh's the guy who's brokering the deals, the guy who's sort of acting almost as a bit of an intermediary between the two fighters in certain situations. Certainly prominent if we ever see Fury AJ happen, the meetings that he has where he calls them in and he gets either side cooperating through him as such. Simon Jordan said, well, it begs the question that what's the point of promoters when everyone's willing to work with this guy? However, Eddie then come back and I look at I suppose I know a lot of the Matchroom team, right? And I see the job that they did on putting that event together out in Los Angeles. And there's so much more to just, I suppose, obviously promoters still integral in putting the fights together, but also you've got to think about the event build
No,
up.
it's Charlie. Charlie, it was a dig. It was a plain and simple dig at Eddie Hearn from Simon Jordan. Very misplaced, because there's so much that goes on in the background. The ticketing, the organising of the events, the transport, the weigh-ins, the liaising with the commission, the whole industry event stuff that has to take place. The promoter runs a business to create boxing events. So, to be fair to Simon, in a sense, what he's saying is valid. That that the promoter seems to be, with Turkey involved, the promoter seems to be him, if you want to say that. But what he's doing, if anything, I think he's a step above them, a stage above them.
Yeah.
He's almost like a benevolent world governing body, getting everyone together and making them work together. Whether it was a dig at Eddie, I don't know from Simon, but he was kind of positing the question, and I think that's actually fair enough. But I think he loves a dig at Eddie. Simon Jordan loves a dig at Eddie because they've got this rivalry.
Oh, he
So
always will, of course. I tell you what, I did think though, when after listening to it, and I sat live in the car with my mate, and we sat listening to it. I thought it was a lot nicer than usual.
well, I think Simon's come around. You've got people like Carl Frost. Everyone's going to come around in the end. People have had a lot of knee-jerk reactions to Saudi Arabian investment. They were always going to go this way. Known the plan for a long time, which is they were going to start there and branch out, create tournaments, do what they're doing, kind of, work their way into the sport, see what works and what doesn't, see what's effective and what's not. And they do, as you've known, there's been shifts along the way. You can't critique the Saudi Arabians for having the biggest event in terms of fan attendance that we've ever had at Wembley, with an amazing undercard. Yes, and the other point that's being made, of course, yes, they are being slightly overpaid at the moment. Wardley and Clark are probably getting millions to fight. They're fighting on October the 12th, and that card's there and built. But the bottom line is, you can't begrudge those fighters getting it now. They're trying to build an industry that will be self-sustaining. It may not work, but I hope it does work, of course. But right now, the market economy is greater than it should be. The that all these fights are lost leaders in a lot of ways to try and generate that economy again, as they are with His Excellency saying, or Turkey saying, I want to make ticket prices £20 everywhere, which for the American market is enormous as well, because as you know, they pay $75 up to $100 for pay-per-view events, and that'll change things radically.
It's funny you say that. I mean, that was the next thing I was going to come on to, which is pay-per-view pricing. We know that for Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol, the price will be £15 and $15. And he spoke about sort of events being too much in the past. He said that the Crawford Madrimov price point was too high. This is a positive sign from, I suppose, like if you're a fan watching the sport. I suppose in the UK it's always been more affordable, and I don't mean that too much, but we've only ever seen it get up to, I don't know, 26.95, which to us has always seemed like a lot. You go and look at some of the pay-per-view pricing in the States and it's bonkers. You think they've got UFC, they've got boxing. I know that the UFC has a big pay-per-view every month. I mean, it's almost wholly unaffordable over there.
Oh no, it's ridiculous, the pricing over there. I never get it. I never get why it's so much. I mean, it feels like a cash grab. Um, but no, they'll be rejoicing in America. They'll be rejoicing in all the fight zones over that. I think, maybe you could say that pricing has been overblown here and there's no rhyme or reason for the cost of it, and it has gone up and up and up. Did it used to be $9.99 at one point? Can't remember. Can't remember actually. I'm trying to recall.
From $9.95 to $14.95 to 19.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then 20, then 25, and obviously it's just crap. And then what's the reason? All you're doing is you're getting the broadcast. Well, it's about the money being made for the fighters, I suppose. At the end of the day. But look, the bottom line is it's all good news. They're trying to do things that are going to work. So, you know me. I mean, I haven't been ultra critical of the Saudi Arabians because I've been party, luckily, to a lot of the things they were planning to do, and I think they've done a great job so far. We've had a great year of fights. There's a big gap between what those big events are now, though, Charlie, and what the other events are. It feels like you're going from Champions League to Division 2 stuff a lot, because all the big fights are being taken. So that's another thing they're going to have to work on as they go along.
We were having a little natter off camera, and I just said, and I'll bring this up when I catch up with Eddie, hopefully on Saturday. I just said that it feels a little bit static in the UK at the minute. Now, look, boxing always has its downtime at parts in the year. We know that January traditionally is a dry month. We know that August traditionally is a dry month. September, I know Frank Warren's got a show on at York Hall on Friday. We're streaming Johnny Clark's show on Saturday on the Stomping Ground. But I suppose your broadcaster type shows, your Sky Sports, your TNTs, your Saturday night fight nights on DAZN. It feels a little static at the minute, fair to say?
I don't know. I mean, I think, like I just said, that there's a leap between the very biggest events going on at the moment and the smaller events. There have been times over the years when we've only had 2 or 3 really big names in the UK. And with all due respect to everyone's in the industry right now, coming through, outside Fury and Joshua in the heavyweight division in the UK, say Conor Benn and Chris Eubank, Ben Whittaker, maybe a couple of 3 of the other light heavyweights. Who are the big names in the UK? They're all middle-ranking names, so it's up to them to create more names for themselves. You go to the United States, you've got your Crawfords and your Canelos, then you've got 2 Russians who've been based there for most of the time. the latter part of their careers. Then you've got what I've told you that I've called them the Seven Princes before, from Ryan Garcia through to Shaka Stevenson, Tank Davis, Teo Lopez, Devin Haney in that group. Those are the only stars in America, frankly, aren't they? The only ones that draw big numbers. So you go to Naoya Inoue in Japan. There's only about 20 big names in boxing in the world. Is that fair?
Um,
If you look at the big heavyweight
yeah,
names, those are names that
not even 20, you know.
no, exactly. So you've got to look at, we're a niche sport. We have peaks and troughs. We always have done. I remember there's a time when you nearly fell off your chair. Then there was a time when Joe Calzaghe and Ricky Hatton were coming to an end, and Carl Froch was coming through. And I remember having conversations with people like Mike Costello at the time and others, thinking, where's our next stars coming from? And it's always felt a little bit like that. And then you do get some people that fill the breach. If Ben Whittaker goes well for 5 or 6 fights now, and we see some real power from him, and he looks good in his next few performances. Liam Cameron is going to be a bit of a test for him. I think he'll win it handily. But let's say he gets an explosive knockout, but he does all his dance moves, and in 4 fights' time, and he's got 5 million Instagram followers, we've got another star coming through, and everything he does is being scrutinized, and things happen here, and it's just the nature of the beast. And I know you're talking about smaller cards, but I don't know. I just hope they're all getting their ducks in a row behind the scenes. That's all.
Gareth, I suppose just a few more quick ones because I know you've got to bounce. I know you're
Yeah,
busy.
I've got to go in 5. I've got to run. Yeah.
Saunders versus Eubank Jr. supposedly in talks.
Say again, sorry.
Joe Saunders and Eubank Jr. supposedly in talks.
Yeah, I mean, and also Ben Shalom saying on TalkSport that he's going to be in a world title fight next probably precludes that happening, but I hope so. I mean, obviously he turned down Hamza Shiraz, which is a shame, but I think if he beats Zeramata and Hamza Shiraz beats Tyler Denny, they line up in September and October fights, so that's a big fight for early next year, and that could be almost like a main event, I would say, if possible. But Ben and Eubank, if that happens, great. Obviously, it can happen in Saudi Arabia, but it can't happen under the auspices of the Boxing Board of Control at the moment. Yeah, if they are in talks, great. But I mean, we heard just under a month ago, for a couple of days, strongly rumoured that Chris Eubank Jr. was in talks to fight Canelo as well. So you never know with Chris. He's a box office name. There's no question about that. But who knows? There are a lot of things I think need to shift in order to make Ben and Eubank happen.
All right, Gareth. Well, thank you very much for your time. I know you've got to shoot. Enjoy the wheelchair basketball semi-finals, and I'm sure we will catch up at some point in the UK next week.
Yeah, definitely. All up for that.
For the people. What's your message for the people this Thursday afternoon, Gareth?
Peace out.
Peace out indeed.